Here's another really strange tidbit I came across having to do with the Bohemian Grove. In case you're not aware, to sum it up quickly, Bohemian Grove is a highly secretive elite retreat where hundreds of power players, everyone from the guys behind the Manhattan Project, to presidents, to the heads of major corporations, to our institutions, including the mainstream media, basically all of our nation's supposed leaders, you name it, they get together in a highly guarded boys-only club once a year and spend 2 weeks in the woods doing mock rituals, which appear to include a boat from the river Styx, which is taken down the river to a giant owl statue they call Moloch, where they stand around in hooded robes and they burn an effigy to cremate their care. Most people can't even wrap their head around that. The fact that our leaders do that every year. That's something that they do. But anyway, I came across this article having to do with an unfortunate incident that happened at the Bohemian Grove in 1895. Tell me if this story makes any sense to you at all. This is from the San Francisco Chronicle, Monday, May 13th, 1895. Death in the river. Untimely end of 2 local athletes, Nelson and Kronog, are drowned. A fatal frolic in the Russian River near Bohemian Grove. 1 body recovered. John Nelson and William Edward Kronog, 2 young men of this city, lost their lives yesterday afternoon while at a picnic given by the San Francisco Athletic Club at Bohemian Grove in Sonoma County. The young men were swimming in Russian River, which runs through the picnic grounds. The drowning of the lads was witnessed by hundreds of other picnickers who were unable to save their companions. Now, if the story just stopped there, it's very unfortunate, it's a very sad tale. But then they added all these details that just... Listen to this. Nelson lost his life shortly after 1 o'clock, while Kronog met a similar fate 3 hours later. Although there were others in the river swimming in close proximity to both victims when the accidents occurred, scarcely anything was done to save either of the men. It's not even to the weirdest part yet. Several hundred young people, among them Nelson and Kronog, left the city yesterday morning on an excursion to Bohemian Grove, which is a short distance above Guerneville, in Sonoma County. The heat was intense at the picnic grounds, and a number of the young men, soon after their arrival, concluded to take a swim. Nelson and a companion were among the first to get into the water. They began skylarking as they swam about in the cold waters. I had to look up skylarking. It means horseplay, just by the way. Nelson suddenly called out to his companion, who was then some distance away, that he was sinking. The latter did not at first comprehend. When he saw that Nelson was really in danger, he swam to his assistance. He also shouted to some people who were in a boat nearby for aid. Those who heard his calls thought that the lads were again skylarking and made no attempt to succor them. Nelson could no longer be supported by his companion, and in plain view of hundreds of people who were on the banks of the river, disappeared beneath the waters. Still not to the weirdest part yet. There were only a few of the picnickers swimming when the catastrophe occurred, but those on the grounds and in the pavilion were able to see what was transpiring. Futile efforts were made shortly after the fatality to recover the body of young Nelson. Hooks were used, and sticks of dynamite were thrown in the river for a time in the hope of bringing his body to the surface. That's what they did. They were like, well, throw a couple sticks of dynamite in there. Maybe he'll come back up. After a time, the excitement quieted down, and the young people again danced in the pavilion for a couple of hours. Later in the afternoon, a number of the merrymakers again went into the river and swam about, as if nothing had occurred to mar the day's pleasure. Really? So, a guy drowns, everyone watches him basically drown. They don't do anything to really save him. After he's under the water, presumably dead, they start chucking sticks of dynamite into the water. When that doesn't work, they're like, well, I guess we'll just all go back to the pavilion and dance some more, and then later go swimming in the same water where the dead guy is, as if none of that ever happened. That's what we'll do. And we won't go alert authorities or, I guess, do anything, because why? Well, he's already dead. Why stop the merrymaking? We came all the way here, and he's already gone, so... Really? And they just all assumed there would be no investigation. I guess because it's Bohemian Grove, there's just no investigation, right? Moving on, among these was William E. Kronog. So they got back into the water and decided to go swimming, and now you have William E. Kronog going swimming. Kronog was in the water for a short time when he thought he would like to cross to the opposite side of the river, right over the body of Nelson that's dead and down in there somewhere, just a dead guy. He swam less than a quarter of the distance, which is about 100 yards, when he felt himself sinking. Not from guilt or anything at swimming over the dead body of someone, just he was sinking also. He called for assistance, and although there were at least a dozen others swimming close by, they feared to go to his assistance. Why? It doesn't explain why. Maybe because they're all just swimming where somebody else already died a couple hours ago and they pretended it didn't happen. I don't know. Patrick Lynch, who was standing on the shore and heard the cries, bravely risked his life to save that of Cronog and dove into the water without waiting to remove his clothes and swam toward the drowning man. He caught him by the hair and endeavored to bring him to the shore. Lynch, however, was unable to retain his hold on Cronog, and the latter sank to the bottom of the river. James McQueen dove into the water and succeeded in bringing up the body of Cronog about 20 minutes later. Every effort was made to resuscitate him, but life had fled because he'd been down there for freaking 20 minutes. The coroner of Sonoma County was notified. It was just letting you know there's some dead people here. You might want to come get them. And took charge of Cronog's body. Nelson's remains had not been recovered at a late hour last night, and the search was given up until today. And then it says where they lived. Cronog was a clerk at the San Francisco News Company, and Nelson was employed at a butcher shop, and their parents were devastated because they died, and I guess no one did anything at all to really save them. This is what I'm saying. Does this story make any sense at all? There's obviously a lot more to this because it makes no sense. Is that how it is at Bohemian Grove? People just die and they're like, we gotta dance and sing. We got things to do. We're dancing, we're singing, we're gonna swim later right over the dead body of some other person. That's how it is. We're at Bohemian Grove. I mean, at least the second guy dies. They actually did something kind of about it. The other guy, they're like, chuck a few sticks of dynamite in there. Maybe he'll come back up. I don't know. What the hell? If that's the kind of stuff that went on there in 1895, can you even remotely begin to imagine the kind of stuff that goes on there today? I can't. I don't want to.